welcome. It's great to have you here for our live training today. We're going to be talking about overcoming fear in pregnancy and going into birth feeling really confident and prepared. Yeah, let's get started. So my name is Victoria Tippins, and I've been attending births for 15 years. And so throughout all those years, I basically uncovered some specific frameworks to help when moms are really struggling with fear. Going through my own pregnancies also helped me to get opportunity to engage with my own fears and also experience the consequences of not working through my fears as well so that I could learn and so that I could serve and support moms in a better way. I wanted to say first that it's normal to have fear in pregnancy. Right. A lot of us have fear, and we live in a culture where it's very common to have fear in pregnancy. We just don't support moms in feeling confident and prepared generally. Often what happens if a mom is pregnant is that suddenly they're inundated with all of these opinions, right, that we don't really want, and unsolicited advice. And we're working with a very fear-based model of care as well. And all of that can impact your feeling of confidence in pregnancy. So I want to say that it's normal, especially in our culture, to feel fear in pregnancy, but I want to make sure that we're not normalizing fear as something that is inherent to the experience. It's normal to have a landscape of emotion and to experience different emotions as we are, going through this journey of becoming a mother. You are doing something you've never done before. Going through birth and preparing for birth, even if you've given birth before, you've never given birth to this baby, you've never had this pregnancy before. So we're doing something new that we've never done before. And we don't do anything new that we've never done before with 100% confidence and perfection. We learn that we can do it as we're doing it. And so it's normal to have self-doubt. It's normal to have fears. What I would say isn't normal, and what I want to invite all of you not to normalize in yourself, is when we are just really struggling emotionally in an ongoing capacity and we're not getting the support in overcoming those fears. It is common to maybe go to the provider and say, I'm really worried about tearing. Is there anything that we can do to help me reduce my risk for tearing? And they might be like, well, tearing just happens. And looking at your anatomy, you're more likely to tear. It's like, what? That's really not helpful. And this is very common, hearing a lot of these fearful narratives. So I kind of want to start by talking about why we have fear in our culture. And then I want to go into some specific frameworks that I've learned and that I've taught to my students to help them overcome fear and embrace birth feeling really confident and prepared. And I want to share that birth is a normal physiologic event, and physiology works really, really well, and it's been perfected over thousands of years of evolution. So your body knows what to do, and your baby knows what to do. And this is something that you are doing and your baby is doing, and both of you are doing this together. And where we can get in the way is when we bring fear into it. So preparing for birth is less, in my opinion, about learning the right position and doing the dates and the hip circles on the birth ball and all those things to prepare. All those things are great, but this is where the Western approach for preparation for birth really fails moms. We just focus on gaining knowledge and learning tips and tricks, and then we get into birth and our thinking brain turns off. And when your thinking brain turns off, all that knowledge leaves you. What is going to live, what's going to be present with you then, when that goes away, is whatever you have integrated in your body. What is your relationship to relaxation? What is your relationship to pain, to releasing control? Have you practiced being able to relax? Have you practiced building positive associations to the feeling of pressure? Have you built throughout your pregnancy associations to different affirmations, uncovered what it is that really speaks to you personally, and integrated all of that through practice? That will give you a foundation of tools that are somatic, that are personalized to you, and that live in your body. And this is the difference between taking an online birth course or an in-person birth course and my coaching program. When we work with someone who can give us ongoing personalized support, you're getting that personalization, which means we're figuring out what is coming up for you and how to work through that for you specifically. And also you're getting support with the integration piece. So we're not just like getting information and hoping that's enough when we go into labor, if that kind of makes sense. So today I'm going to teach you some of my favorite tools that I've used to support my moms in feeling confident and prepared for birth in my coaching program. I surveyed the first 100 moms that I taught this framework to, some of these frameworks, in addition to my peaceful birth method, which is my 5-step process to support parents in feeling confident and prepared for birth, and emotional preparation is step 1 because it's the foundation for everything. And 100%, so every single mom reported that they felt confident going into birth and they weren't struggling with fear. Also, 91% did not tear, 96% had an unmedicated birth, and 96% had a vaginal birth and avoided a C-section. And the reason why those statistics are so good and why the moms who go through my coaching program all feel confident and prepared for birth at the end of it is because we are approaching birth education in a combination of education and knowledge, evidence-based tools to reduce your risk for a C-section, tearing, epidural if you're not wanting one, things like that, and emotional preparation tools to help you learn how to make choices deliberately in alignment with love rather than making choices from fear. Self-awareness tools, so you're building awareness with yourself and you understand like what might come up for you, and you are building relationships to your fears and getting support and a plan around those fears. So if something comes up in labor, it's not like, something's coming up, and then you just kind of like let that thing take over, like let the fear take over. Instead, you have the self-awareness to go, oh, hey girl, I see you. I know this fear, and I am still holding the steering wheel of my experience. And that takes a lot of practice and self-awareness and a commitment to do that inner work. And so I'm really excited to share some of this with you. I'm going to cover as much as I can in an hour. I will say that there's a difference between me telling you these things and you getting personal support with them. I know some of you have already booked your free birth breakthrough session with me, but if you haven't, there's the link. And on that call, it's a free call with me. I just dropped it in the chat, so grab that before the end of this because it'll go away when I exit out of this. We'll create a personalized plan for you to support you in figuring out what are the steps needed for you specifically to feel confident and prepared for birth. Where are the gaps in your knowledge? Where are the fears? So that we can map out a personalized plan. There's a difference between like, I'll tell you these things and like, we're going to make it work for you. But I really hope that what I share with you today is helpful and kind of gets you going in a good place, if that makes sense. So let's start talking about, why do we have fear? Why is everyone so afraid of birth? The reason why is because if you were to look back at the early 1900s, back then, doctors, a bunch of male doctors, realized that birth was an untapped market. And so they decided to capitalize on birth. And that is why we have so much fear today. In order to make the most money off of people giving birth, we need to convince them that their bodies are broken and they need all this stuff outside of themselves in order to do it. And I call that's absolutely not true, yet it is the narrative that has been fed to all of us throughout our upbringing, from movies and media, stories we hear from other people. Birth is something that is dangerous and scary, and you should be very, very afraid, and you should accept all of these different interventions, right, to protect you and save you from your own physiology. And it's very silly, but it's a great business model. We can use fear to get people to spend a lot more money, on interventions, because an intervention-heavy birth, hospitals make 2 to 3 times more money in an intervention-heavy birth in comparison to a normal physiologic birth. So it makes sense there isn't a lot of incentive to support that kind of birth. But people back then were having really positive birth experiences in general with their family doctors who were coming to their homes for delivery and with their midwives. And so we had to drive out the competition in order to get people into the hospital. And so the hospitals launched these horrible, very racist campaigns against midwives and family doctors, saying that midwives are dirty, they only serve poor people. Then people started to feel like, oh, I want to be like the rich people who like go to the hospital. Like, I don't want to be like a poor person or dirty or seen that way, So like there was this peer pressure, there was this cultural pressure, and that really shifted the culture of birth and drove so many people into profiting hospital establishments. And then, of course, movies and media have used the narrative of birth to dramatize what birth looks like. Most of those movies and shows are written by white men in Hollywood who don't know anything about birth. And yet, for some reason, that narrative perpetuates and is normalized. And so many of us, by the time that we are pregnant and then preparing for birth, we have never seen what normal physiologic birth even looks like. We've only heard scary stories, or we have seen the movies and media, right? And that probably didn't do us any favors. We don't live in a culture where the young women are involved in birth and they're like bringing water or like supporting in some way. And it's more of like this normal physiologic a family event. Instead, there's a lot of that separation. So we just really don't see what it looks like. And I've supported many, many people who have come to me and said, I've had 3 or 4 babies and now I just really want this 5th one to be different. I want a normal physiologic birth, but I don't even know what that looks like yet. Because just we haven't seen that because of like the way that our births have gone before. If you go into a model of care, and there's nothing wrong with birthing in the hospital. There's nothing wrong with any kind of birth place you want to give birth, at home, a birth center, hospital, doesn't matter. But in a medical model where we put someone on a conveyor belt and we say, okay, you're going to follow every single algorithm and policy. Your water's broken, you get Pitocin. It's been 3 hours, time for a cervical exam. Your labor's taking a little bit longer than I want it to, time to break your water. We're feeling often disempowered in that model because things are happening to us without our understanding or consent. And then when a issue comes up, maybe a risk or a side effect to an intervention, that can feel really scary because you did not know that you were consenting to that intervention. And that is what can lead to more negative birth experiences, which leads me to my next point as a contributing factor to why many of us have fear. It's because we hear a lot of scary stories, because the culture at large does not support informed consent. Every provider is different, and some providers really honor informed consent and they practice in that way, and other providers really do not. But if we are having the majority of people in the United States give birth in a medical model where they aren't encouraged to be collaborative in their care and be partners in their care, rather they're just encouraged to be told to, like you're told what to do and you just kind of follow along that conveyor belt, it can feel more negative and it'll feel less positive. Maybe I'll say it that way. So those are some of the reasons why moms can have fear in pregnancy. So I want to first, maybe before I go into my frameworks, I want to share these 2 reasons why it's so important to work on overcoming fear in pregnancy. One is that if you go into birth with fear, what can happen is you can enter something called the fear, pain, tension cycle. And the fear, pain, tension cycle means that you have a contraction, and in the presence of that contraction, you feel really afraid and you go, yikes, I'm really afraid of this pain. And so you tense your body. And when you add tension, it makes the pain actually worse, which makes your fear worse, which makes the tension worse, and so on and so on. So we kind of follow along this cycle, and it's a downward spiral that we really don't want to go down. I was in this with my 3rd birth. With my first, I actually had a pain-free birth. I did not experience pain all throughout my active labor. But when I was pushing, I did experience pain because I had fear of tearing and I didn't even realize I had that fear. And I didn't have anyone to sit with me and to help me kind of unpack these things and use frameworks and tools and personalization to help me prepare emotionally. I was just kind of figuring out on my own. And I had been a doula for 9 years, so I thought I knew what I was doing. But that's a good example of how knowledge can only take us so far. We need the knowledge, but knowledge isn't enough. We need knowledge and personalized support, emotional preparation support. Because when I was in that moment, I felt the pressure on my baby's head coming down. I was like, yikes, get the baby out. I just felt so overwhelmed and I had all this fear. And so I added extra force and I pushed the baby out faster. And that skipped past my body's normal 2 steps forward, 1 step back crowning process when the baby moves forward a little bit and back and forward a little bit more and back to allow the tissues to open and close and open a little bit more and close and open a little bit more and close. And that is what protects us from tearing. That's what happened with my first birth. And then with my second, my third, I did experience pain during the labor, but the pushing, I had no pain, no tearing at all. It's funny, like with my third specifically, I had some fear of the active labor, and that was my hardest one. My second one was just 2 hours, so it was just very intense. But my third, I had some fear of pain and fear of active labor come up, and I did not work through that. And so through all of active labor, I was really struggling and fighting with my contractions. And it made that labor so hard for me emotionally. And it felt like a very negative experience, even though everything unfolded exactly how I wanted it to. But the fact that I was struggling so much made it feel really negative to me. But the delivery part where the baby came out, since I had done all this work to prepare for my second to avoid tearing emotionally, I had no fear around pushing. I had no fear around pain. And then the baby's head was there. I was like, cool, baby's head's coming out. Like I felt very neutral, maybe leaning towards pleasure for both my second and third deliveries. So I just have found that in my births, the areas where I experienced the most pain were the areas where I had the most fear and where I didn't work through that fear. And it really, for my third birth, it would have been the difference if I had worked through that fear of having this positive, beautiful birth to having what felt to me just so negative. And it took, he's a year and a half old now, and it took like a year for me to start feeling okay about his birth, just because I was struggling so much emotionally throughout that experience. And that would have just meant so much to me to be able to have a more positive experience. And that's how I learned that. And now I can share that with other people. So the fear, pain, tension cycle is one reason. But the other reason why it's important to do emotional preparation is so we can make choices deliberately, like I mentioned before, in alignment with love and in alignment with our birth intention, instead of making choices from fear. This is very hard to do if you don't have the tools and support. So I'm going to give you one of my favorite tools today, and it's called knowledge, wisdom, and love. One person who I worked with her first baby before I had met her, she had a C-section and she had a lot of fear going into her birth. She really didn't want a C-section. She was terrified of a C-section actually. And she went to her provider and said, I'm so afraid of a C-section. Like, what can I do to avoid it? And her provider says, well, actually, your baby is pretty big. And I think that if you want to avoid a C-section, we need to give you an induction. She really didn't want an induction, but she said, okay, if you can promise me that I can avoid a C-section by doing the induction, I'll do whatever you say. So this is someone who's giving up their own decision making and not really choosing to honor what it was that she wanted. Instead wanted the person, like someone else, to make choices for her with this promise that their path would help her avoid a C-section. And she ended up getting a C-section due to induction complications. And that was how she learned that it's important not to choose from fear. Another example is a mom who was in my coaching program. I allowed the moms in my coaching program to text me anytime or call me. Just today, someone called me because she found out her baby is breech at 40 weeks pregnant. And so I'm helping her kind of work through that fear and go over options. But I was talking to a mama not too long ago whose water broke, and it's evidence-based. If you don't have GBS, which is a bacteria that can be present in the vagina at the end of pregnancy, to wait 48 to 72 hours after the water breaks without increasing the risk of infection to baby, as long as you and your baby are doing okay and aren't showing any signs of infection. And so she had waited, I think it had been over 24 hours. She was getting a little nervous about it and was like, maybe I want to do something to try to encourage labor to start. And so we went over some options, and she said, I'm going to do castor oil. And then she was texting me about the castor oil a lot. Like, I don't know, is this the right thing? And I said, it doesn't sound like you're feeling really confident about the castor oil. Go do the knowledge, wisdom, and love tool, and then get back to me and let me know. So she checked in with first what she knew about castor oil. What do you know? What are the risks and benefits? And then she's like, okay, I understand that. Then she checked in with her intuition or her own inner wisdom. How am I feeling about this thing? In the presence of this choice, does my chest get tight? Does my throat get tight? Does my belly hurt? Or in the presence of this choice, do I feel more relaxed? So she checked in with her intuition, and then she checked in with her birth intention, with the feeling of love. And she felt love for her baby, and then said, when feeling love for my baby, can I move forward with this choice? And she said when she got really clear with herself and kind of looking at all these categories, the voice that came to her said, I'll do anything to avoid Pitocin. So that was a fear she had that she didn't even know that she had. And that was what was making her want to do the castor oil. So choosing to do the castor oil for her would have been a choice from fear, not a choice that was coming from a place of love, deliberately balancing wisdom with knowledge, if that makes sense. So knowledge, wisdom, and love is a tool that you can use to help you make decisions and to help you make sure that you're making an informed decision, which means you understand your choice, you understand the risks, benefits, and alternatives, and that choice aligns with, so that means you feel in your body the feeling of relaxation or love or peace or whatever it is that you want for your birth. And you're feeling that in your body before you're moving forward. And that makes a world of a difference. Really, truly, like our choices impact the way our birth unfolds so much. And so having a tool like this can really make the difference between, like I told you about this person before who had a C-section, being able to check in and go, how do I feel about this thing? Let's look at the information and make an empowered, informed decision rather than just choosing, thinking about, and feeling in our body the thing that we want to avoid. Let's move on to go into some of my other frameworks. I'd like to introduce to all of you fear as something that does not need to be conquered. It does not need to be controlled or resisted. In fact, when we resist our fear, we make it worse. So instead, what I invite my moms to do is to love themselves and to love their fear and embrace their fear. So one concept that I would like to introduce to you for this work is called internal family systems, or IFS. This was developed by someone named Richard Schwartz. And it's this idea that in our psychology, we are made up of all these different parts. And you could think of it like a company. Like if you could imagine that within your psychology, if you fell off your bike as a kid, there would be a part of you that's created in that moment. And its job in the company of you, its job is to make sure that going forward, you're really cautious with bikes, or maybe you're afraid of bikes to protect you, right? And so we can have some of these parts of us come up and be triggered when we are preparing to go into birth. Oh my gosh, I'm going to be vulnerable. I'm going to have to trust people. I'm going to feel maybe out of control, or I'm going to be releasing control to my body, and I'm going into the unknown, and I feel really uncomfortable with that. Fear of pain, a fear of tearing from things that we've heard, experiences that we've had. Some of those things can come up sometimes in pregnancy and can often be the root of our fear. So if you could imagine in the company of you, what happens often is that a part is created and then we move on with our lives and we forget that we need to give the company an update. Those parts are going to continue to operate. So, like maybe if I use this example with my first birth, my midwife left her backup midwife at my home and didn't tell me she was leaving to go to another birth. And I felt really abandoned in that moment. And that was really hard for me in my next births to trust that people weren't going to abandon me. And so a part of me was created. When I was planning my second pregnancy or my second birth, I had a new midwife who was amazing, and I trusted her so much in my head. Like I knew that she was going to be there, but I felt terrified that she was going to abandon me. That fear was not coming from my current reality. It was coming from something that happened in the past. So there was a part of me within myself that was still doing its job, which was to protect me from being hurt again and to protect me from feeling abandoned by saying, like, in the presence of needing to be vulnerable and trust someone, going, we can't do that, right? And so when we go like, go away part, why am I struggling with this? And so we feel overwhelmed and we're resisting it. What we do is we actually make it worse. I'm introducing you to the concept of internal family systems because I want to open your eyes to seeing the truth, which is that every part of you is perfect. There's nothing wrong with you. Like if you have any fears come up, that's normal. There are no wrong parts. There are no bad parts. It's just a part of you that wants to be loved. It's just a part of you that maybe needs a new job. Maybe in the company, right, of you, there's a part in there that's operating, saying like, we're going to make sure that you stay safe from this thing. And so I'm going to make you feel afraid whenever you think about that thing. And that's like what my job is. And so internal family systems gives us the opportunity to build relationships with those parts, relationships with parts of ourselves, and awareness of them. With my third birth, I had that same fear come up because it followed me with each of my births. But by the time I got to my third, I had already worked on it so much to help me feel more confident and safe in my second pregnancy and my second birth. So then when it was coming up in my third again, I was like, hey girl, I know you, I have been working with you for a while. I understand where you come from. It's okay to feel that way. You experienced something really hard and scary, and that's totally valid. And we're in a different situation now. And so the purpose of IFS is to give those parts of you an update, to build self-awareness and self-love, so that rather than a part gets triggered and then subconsciously they take over the steering wheel of your life and they go, no, we're going this way because we're afraid, they might get triggered and be like, ah, and then you're like, oh, hey, I see you. I see that I'm having this fear coming up and I'm still in the driver's seat. If any of you feel like IFS resonates with you, you can explore that in therapy. It can be a really excellent model of therapy. I am not a licensed marriage and family therapist, so I obviously can't guide people through the IFS deeply. In my coaching program, I use that as a concept to support parents in conversation and with tools that are within my knowledge and skill to help them build those positive relationships. So IFS is a concept for all of you that I wanted to introduce, and I hope that that feels helpful. What I did create and that I can share with you today for a way that you can engage with parts of yourself that you notice might be coming up, or any fear that comes up at all, is to catch yourself instead of resisting and going like, oh, go away. I don't want that thing. I don't want to feel that thing. Or like, why do I keep struggling with this fear? Or maybe you're living your life and you have a thought like, what if I tear? And it's like, oh, go away. It'll be fine. And you keep going right on with your day. Instead, if you notice any fears come up, choose to turn towards the fear rather than resist the fear. And what I invite you to do is to do 3 different things. It's like 3 steps. First, we're going to just witness. I see that I'm having some fear coming up. Sometimes even getting to that place can be hard because the fear can feel so overwhelming and it can just really like take over. And so if we can just work on practicing, when I have a fear come up, I'm going to stop and observe it and say, I'm noticing that I'm having some fear. You could go to a partner or a friend or a support person and say, I noticed that I had some fear come up today. Can I talk to you about it and explore it with them? That can feel really supportive sometimes. So first we're going to witness it. The second thing that we're going to do is validate it. It's okay that you're feeling afraid. It totally makes sense. You had that experience in the past, or you heard that story. That was a really scary story. It makes sense that you're feeling afraid. So you're communicating with yourself like you are communicating with another person who's standing right in front of you. This is a part of yourself that is hurting, or that is afraid, or that was just created to protect you. And it just wants to be loved and seen. We're going to witness, we're going to validate, and then we're going to love. I love you. And that's it. I see that you're really struggling with that fear, or I see that I'm struggling with this fear right now. It's okay to be afraid. It's so valid. It makes sense. Like, I understand why you're afraid, and I love you. It's okay to be afraid. I love you. That's all you have to do. And it's amazing when you follow those 3 steps, what you're doing is you're building self-awareness, you're building self-love, and you're building a relationship with a part of your fear. So when that fear comes up again, maybe in birth or at the end of pregnancy, when things are feeling more heightened or more vulnerable, instead of going like, oh no, this fear is coming up, we can go, oh, hey, there you are again. I see you. And I validate you, and I love you. And it's okay to be afraid, right? And we're just doing that again and again and again. And you are not going to be perfect at this. And it is something that I would say no one is perfect at. And I've been doing really deep internal family systems work for many years for my own personal healing. And it has helped me so much. And I am nowhere near perfect at it. But the whole point is that I created a commitment within myself to return to loving myself. And so in this moment, I invite all of you to just take a deep breath, connect to your heart, and make a commitment within yourself to, from this moment forward, choose to return to loving yourself. You might not even know what that looks like for you or what that means, and that's okay. But when we choose to build that commitment, when we say, I am ready to walk a path of loving myself, it gets easier and easier over time. And it makes it so much easier for you to return again and again. And you might start to notice that when you start to stray and be like, why am I struggling with this thing? And we're feeling kind of bad about ourselves, or we feel guilty or something like that. Then we go, oh, I'm not really loving myself. It's okay that I'm struggling with this. I'm just human. and I love myself, right? And so we're coming back. This is a beautiful way for you to raise your children and for all of us to collectively raise the generations to come to be people who love themselves and who know that they are more than enough. You going into birth believing that you are more than enough and choosing to create a birth experience that reflects that, choosing to honor how you feel, honor what it is that you really want for your birth, and show up for yourself, that is going to create a more positive birth experience for you and for your sweet baby coming into the world. And that will be your baby's birth story for the rest of their life. You working on overcoming your fear of pregnancy or birth or any of that right now, maybe because of like hearing scary stories in your lineage of people in your community, right, that have given birth before you. If you choose to do the inner work, which would be building relationships and loving the parts of yourselves that have those fears, that is a way that you can break any sort of like scary story of birth in your family line or in your community. It stops with you so that when your child is pregnant or maybe is getting someone else pregnant and is planning to have a baby come into the world, they don't have to weed through all of the scary stuff that we had to weed through because we cleared that for them. And we chose moving forward to create a relationship with ourselves and a relationship with birth and our bodies that reflects the truth, which is your body was made to do this and you have everything you need inside of yourself in order to do it. It's just that our culture told us the opposite, but all of that was a bullshit lie. So that's kind of what makes it fun, because we're remembering that like this work is not just for us, it's for the generations to come. And also it's so empowering because we know that we're like just returning to the truth. And that's what makes it, I think, easy. It's not like you're having to figure out something new. It's just that you're returning to what is already true and has always been true. We just left that truth because our culture invited us to do that with all the bullshit lies and stories that we heard growing up, if that makes sense. So the second tool that I want to teach you, in addition to the love, it goes see, right? Witness, validate, love. The next one that I want to talk about is I want to talk about your birth intention. And then at the end, we'll talk about some tapping. And tapping is a really cool tool as well. So your birth intention is the foundation for what you're creating for your birth, right? It's not like I want a positive epidural experience, or I want an unmedicated, like low intervention birth. I want a vaginal birth. Those are things that are good for you to figure out for yourself what you want, right? But what's even more important, I really believe, is that going into birth, you understand what is it that you really want to experience for your birth, because that feeling is going to be the way that you initiate yourself into motherhood. Even if you're already a mother, you're becoming a mother again, going through something new again. And so as we go through that experience, we're becoming someone new. And if we know what it is we want to feel and how we want to be supported, that supports us on that initiatory level, if that makes sense. So for example, I know a mom who really wanted to have a vaginal birth, an unmedicated home birth actually. She transferred and ended up needing a C-section. She was really disappointed about needing a C-section. She really didn't want one. I was her doula, and she had communicated to me that she wanted to have her birth as a ceremony. And so I told the OB, can you act like you're in church? Like, can you please, like, no small talk. We want this birth to be a ceremony. And he said, sure. And then I talked to the nurses and I told them, like, please no small talk, like be really reverent. And they were really supportive. We brought the altar items she brought to the hospital into the surgical room and put them on the station where the baby would go. And the doctor came out and said, that was my first ceremonial C-section. It was beautiful. It was her journey of giving birth. And it didn't unfold in the detail of what she wanted. Like, she did not have the outcome that she wanted, but she was still held in the container of reverence and ceremony and love for the way that her baby came into the world. And that is a gift that she'll cherish for the rest of her life. Also, there are some moms who say, like, I want a really joyous birth. I want to be silly. I want you to, like, tell me jokes and make me laugh. I'm thinking of one mom who put on her birth playlist, like her music playlist. It was like like wet pussy something. I can't remember the song, but it was hilarious. So she just like, had that personality. And so in that space, we knew that her intention was for her to like, she wanted to feel joyful and be laughing. And I'm the opposite. I'm like very reverent and serious for my birth. And I want everyone to be very quiet. My whole birth plan is like, please just shut up. Like in active labor, shut up and stand in the corner when I'm pushing. Shut up and stand in the corner. Like I just want everyone to be really quiet and leave me alone. And so that's what I want for me. So understanding what is it that you want for your birth and uncovering that is important. But the reason why it's important not only to support the logistics of things, like creating a container that supports you in having that feeling, it's also important because it becomes your emotional preparation tool. And this is something we don't have time to do this today, but if you wanted to work with me in the coaching program, or you wanted to talk to me about this on a free birth breakthrough call, and for those who just popped in, I have the link to that in the chat you can click on. But what I do for the moms in my coaching program is I'll actually guide them through a framework to help them to figure out what that is for them. And I have tools and exercises that we do. What I can tell you all now, that would be helpful, is to take a moment to enter a space, in a deliberate space where there's no limitation. So we want to explore no limitation space for your birth. Birth could be anything you want it to be. What would it look like in that space? And often we approach birth from scarcity, like I only have, my insurance covers this thing, and so I can't get that doula, or I can't do this thing, and the hospital doesn't let me do that. And then we're just kind of figuring out how to compromise and have the best experience that we can with the limited access that we have. And that is a reality for many people. But you have way more control than you think over having the positive experience that you're wanting and having your preferences be intact, even if some of those things can't happen. But it's important that all of us take the time to exercise entering a space where we can have anything happen. What would you want? What really matters to you? What would be so meaningful for you? And explore that. And from that place, we can get clear on what our birth intention is. And the intention is a feeling in your body. So when I like feel the kind of birth that I want, I just feel this peace. That's what it is. It's this like calm, like just quiet peace, and it feels so good. That's what I want to feel for my birth. Okay, amazing. Now that we figured that out, let's talk about how we can support you in being able to connect to that feeling throughout your birth. And we do this through practice. So you hear me talking about integration and practice. This is one tool for that. Every single day, spend a few moments to feel the intention for your birth in your body. You like visualizing birth, hearing affirmations, all that stuff is great. Building knowledge, all that is in the mind. We want to have somatic practice. So we're feeling something in the body. So take a few moments to go like, oh, this peaceful birth for my, like the peaceful experience for my birth. I feel that, my baby coming into the world so peacefully. Okay, back to my day. That's all you have to do. It's just a few moments every single day, at least once a day, of finding that feeling in your body and practicing that. Because when you do that, you're building a neurological connection and strengthening that pathway to you being able to access that feeling in your body much easier. Because if I was walking down the street and someone said, "Hey, Victoria, relax," I'd be like, rude, you know? But if I was walking down the street, after months of practicing every day, I hear the word relax and then I respond by relaxing. If someone was like, "Hey, Victoria, relax," I'd be like, "Oh, thank you." That's a funny example, but you get it. Like, it's about practicing over time to strengthen that. And this is where the upward spiral of positivity begins. First, if you give yourself the permission to be a person and to allow yourself to let any fear come up that is going to come up, or any anxiety or whatever it is, it comes up. Oh, I witness you, I validate you, and I love you. It's okay to be afraid. I love you. Oh, okay, we're not resisting anymore. It's so much easier when we're not resisting. So if we can do that, and then if we can also just deliberately put our attention again and again and again every day on what it is that we want, then you'll start to believe that what you want is possible. And then if you believe that what you want is possible, then you're going to start building confidence. And we just naturally go on this upward spiral of positivity and confidence. And it all starts with where you are putting your attention. You cannot control what comes up for you because you are a human being, and human beings have emotions. you can always control where you put your attention. This is something that we often don't know how to do or don't even know that that's true. Learning that is very, very empowering. You always can control where you put your attention. So if you notice that you're kind of like in the weeds and you're like, I just keep thinking about scary things and keep bringing my attention towards scary things, or I'm living my life and I have these thoughts, what if I tear? Go away thought. What if I have a C-section? Go away thought. You have attention on those fears. That's why it's coming up. So instead of resisting it, we just want to process our attention and let our attention process through. And that's going to lead me to the last, maybe second to last. I'm going to teach you two more. The second to last tool for today, which is something that an elder in my community taught me. And it's such an amazing tool. And this tool would be to feel it fully. So we want to, instead of resisting our fear, turn towards the fear and let yourself feel it. That can feel really scary. Like, I'm really afraid of tearing, for example. It just terrifies me. And it feels easier to resist the fear of tearing rather than letting yourself feel it. But when you let yourself feel it, you can finally process it. And when you process it, then it can go away. Or it can significantly reduce, and now the possibility of creating a relationship with that fear becomes present. And when we can build a relationship, we can prevent that fear from taking over. Instead, we've integrated that fear, we're self-aware, we love ourselves, and we're going to go into birth with a plan to help us feel emotionally safe around preventing tearing, for example. So we can actually prevent tearing. The first thing I'd like you to do is find the fear when it comes up in your body. You can do it in the moment, or if you're a busy person, later on when you're going to bed or something, say, oh, I remember I had this fear come up today. I'm going to return to that fear and let myself process it, because it's coming up because it wants to be processed. It's just a part of you that wants to be loved, wants to be validated, wants to be processed. That's it. You have nothing to fear within you. Everything inside of you is beauty and perfection. That's the truth. So if you can turn towards it and say, okay, fear, I'm going to feel you, and just feel the fear fully. And put your attention fully on the fear. So I want you to like you could even act it out a little bit, like, oh, I'm so afraid. It feels like my throat is tight and my chest is heavy, and like, I'm just so afraid. Just like feel it fully for like 10 or 15 seconds. Then put your attention on someone who loves you unconditionally. This could be an ancestor. It could be a partner, someone who is alive today, or it could be spirit or something spiritual. Feel that love for you. Feel that person's love for you, or that being's love for you. And I want you to turn towards it and like the sun is shining on your chest, and put all of your attention on that feeling of being loved, and be like, wow, I am so loved. And feel that love. And then bring your attention back to the fear. Oh, I'm so afraid, right? Then bring your attention to someone who loves you unconditionally, and do this back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And over time, after a few times, you should notice that the fear is starting to lighten up, and it's feeling a little bit lighter inside of you. This means that you're processing that fear, and you're also directing your attention to self-love and to the feeling of love. And that is such a beautiful and healthy way to move through our fears. And as we learn how to do this in pregnancy, we can develop these skills so we can help our children with it later on. Because lots of us in our upbringing did not learn like boundary setting skills, did not learn self-awareness skills or emotional, like ways to relate to our emotions in a healthy way. And so we can, maybe I'll say it this way, what a beautiful opportunity. Every single one of your fears, what a beautiful opportunity to invite you. That's what it is. It's an invitation to invite you to learn how to relate to yourself in alignment with self-love, so that you can teach your child how to love themselves in a capitalistic culture where we're told that we need all this stuff outside of ourselves to be enough and to be worthy and to be beautiful, so that big corporations can make money. And, you know, I have a 6-year-old daughter, and I like working on loving myself, and she's like learning all that from me, but she goes to school and then she comes back and she goes, I really don't like my singing voice, it's so bad. And I'm like, no, you know, but like we can't control everything that our children experience. We do live in a world where it is common for children to feel like and young teenagers, right, to feel like they can't love themselves and they need all these things outside of themselves and they're not good enough and all this stuff. So if we can be so steadfast in loving ourselves the way we want our children to love ourselves, that is the best thing that you can do for your child, because that will directly support your child in learning to relate to themselves in that way. And so what a beautiful opportunity. Thank you, fear. Thank you, fear, for coming up. Like, I'm so grateful for this opportunity to learn and to become a better person for my child. And I'm committed to loving myself. And I'm committed to building relationships with these fears, because I know that that investment of self-love and energy and time that I'll give to that is going to create a better and healthier, happier life for all the generations to come in front of me, because all the children look up to the mother. And so if you yourself are regulated, if you yourself are supported, then all the children are going to feel that, right? We really are the center of the community. So let's go to my last tool. And this tool is called Emotional Freedom Technique. And it was made by Alexia Leachman. And she wrote the book, I believe it's called Fearless Birthing. I haven't read that book yet, but I discovered her on the Evidence-Based Birth podcast. I checked out her podcast and geeked out on her method a little bit. And so what she does is she teaches Emotional Freedom Technique, or EFT, and she teaches it in a way that is specifically focused on overcoming the phobia of birth, because some people really have a phobia, which is like a deep terror of birth more than just some fears, and uses this technique to help parents overcome that fear. And I think that it's a great tool to use for everyone to know about. So I'm just going to introduce it to you today, and we're going to close out our workshop today by doing a little bit of tapping. So first, what you do is you name the fear. I'm really afraid of releasing control. That's something that I'm afraid of, just being out of control. That sounds terrifying. Okay, cool. Now we've named it. Let's rate it then on a scale from 1 to 10. 1 being not so bad, 10 being just terrifying, like your whole body just like shuts down. It feels so like just so afraid. What am I saying? Sorry. It feels so terrifying. I get like tripped up on my words at the end of the day because I start getting hungry. Anyway, so from 1 to 10, we want to name it. And then after we name it, we can do the tapping once we have a script. So on your own, you could look at her book. You could also just go into AI and type up, like, say, this is my fear of birth. Can you give me an EFT script? For my paid members in my coaching program, I have scripts and I can help you create a personalized script if you want. You could also just create your own script. So we want to talk about the thing that we're afraid of while we're tapping. So we're tapping on different points on the body to help to stimulate the nervous system. And this is going to retrain your nervous system to feel more safe and okay with the thing that you're afraid of, if that makes sense. So there are many different points you can tap. I find that it's easy sometimes to just tap your collarbone like this. Tapping your collarbone is something that it's effective, and you're just doing one thing and you don't have to think about tapping all these different parts on your body. So you're welcome to do that, but you can also do the full sequence as well if you want to. And what it looks like is the top of your head, above your eyebrows, under your eyes, under your nose, under your chin, your collarbone, and then the inner wrist. So you can go through these tapping points saying what it is that you want to say, like whatever the script is that you created. And so for the last few minutes, we're going to do this together, or you could just watch me do it if you're unable to tap at this moment. So let's start with the top of our head, and we're just going to go through a script for releasing control. Okay, so just take a big deep breath in and out. Okay, we're going to start at the top of the head. I'm afraid of releasing control. Just repeat after me. It's okay to be afraid of releasing control. I know that I am safe, even when I have these fears. My body knows what to do during birth. My baby knows what to do during birth. I know my body and my baby are going to work in perfect harmony. It's okay to trust my body. It's okay to trust my baby. Then we want to talk about an introduction around the thing that you're worried about and introduce it as something that maybe could be more positive. So let's go into that. So starting at the top of the head. I'm open to releasing control. I could love releasing control. Pleasure happens when I release control. I feel relaxed and surrendered when I release control. Maybe releasing control wouldn't be so scary. Maybe releasing control could be a beautiful experience. I'm excited to release control. I'm excited to experience birth. I'm excited to experience what my body was made to do. I'm excited to experience what my baby was meant to do. I love and accept myself completely. I love and accept myself completely. It's okay to be afraid. It's okay to have fears come up. They're just a part of me that wants to be loved. I love myself. I love my body. I love my baby. I can feel safe releasing control. I can choose to trust my body. I love and accept myself completely. I love and accept myself completely. I love and accept myself completely. Yay! Good job! So that is tapping. That's just a quick introduction. It's more effective when we're doing the tapping with some support, getting the right kind of script for you and your fear and things like that. But that's just a little introduction. This can help you overcome fear rather quickly. It's a really beautiful technique and something that I encourage you to explore and to keep in your back pocket. So to summarize today, we talked about where fear comes from. We talked about how you are perfect and how you have no bad parts and there's nothing wrong about you. There's no wrong thing that can come up. And the best way, in my opinion, for us to move forward with emotional preparation and birth is to work on practicing, right? Witnessing what comes up, validating what comes up, and then loving ourselves and dedicating that work not only to ourselves and our own growth, but for the regeneration of the planet, for the regeneration of all mothers loving themselves and remembering that they're more than enough, so that we can create a world where every single child is safe, where every single child knows that they're more than enough, where every single child loves themselves. And I invite you to hold that vision going forward in all of the work that you do, because all of us are connected and peace on earth does begin with birth. Your birth and your experience, the way you show up for yourself, does have a big ripple effect, on your family, on your community, and for the whole world. So it's a really beautiful way to not only honor ourselves, but to be working towards creating the world that we want to see for our children's children. If any of you are interested in getting some personalized support, which really makes a difference between being on your own figuring stuff out and having someone who can work with you and who can give you evidence-based education and support and proven frameworks, in addition to one-on-one support and unpacking fears and processing them. In the chat, I dropped the link. I'm going to post it one more time. So you're welcome to grab that and book a free birth breakthrough session with me, and we can talk about it. Maybe to close, I'll just end by saying I created that 5-step process that I told you about before, and the process goes emotional and physical preparation, your birth team and environment, advocacy, coping with labor, and pushing and reducing the risk for tear. So this is a 5-step process to support parents in feeling more confident and prepared for birth. Over 3,000 parents in over 50 countries have now used it, and I've supported over 200 parents personally with it. And the difference between the moms who took my in-person class and learned the same information and the parents who took the coaching program was that the outcomes in the coaching program were significantly better. And the reason why was because they were getting ongoing support with overcoming their fears, right? And so that's why emotional preparation and emotional support can be so helpful. It's the difference between figuring stuff out on your own, getting information, and then having to like assimilate it and organize it and integrate it on your own, or having someone who can like guide you through that with proven frameworks. So anyway, it was such an honor to be here with all of you. Thank you so much for being a part of our training today. I hope you all have a beautiful rest of your day.